Welcome to NP's Changing Practice. I'm Dr. Carol Berger.
I'm Dr. Nina Zimmerman.
And we are honored tonight to have Margaret Benz with us again. Thank you so much for coming, Margaret.
Well, thank you for having me.
So last time you were on, we talked a lot about legislative updates, which you're involved in, and we are so appreciative of all your efforts and how you try to legislate for NPs in the state of Missouri. And all over the country, actually. But what I really became interested in was your practice, because you're also a practicing NP as well as an educator for St. Louis University. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a practitioner and how you have served the population you're currently with and how you involve your students with that.
Okay, so I've been a nurse practitioner for 26 years now. And initially, when I got out of school, St. Louis U, we all at that time as an educator to teach in nursing NP programs, you had to be working as well. You had to continue to work and have at least one clinical day a week. So St. Louis U gave me a release for 2 half days a week. And initially I was in St. Louis CUMP, which is a federally funded clinic now known as Care St. Louis. And then I went to St. Patrick's Center and started the HEAL clinic there. And the HEAL clinic was 1 day a week until the people, the homeless population really needed more than 1 day a week. So we transferred that to Affinia. And then I started working in the housing authority with the Institute of Family Medicine. And that was Dr. Campbell, who sees a lot of odd places all over St. Louis, in schools and in different pediatric clinics and international clinics and all kinds of things. So I started working with him, and in doing that, I ended up in the housing authority. So I've been there for about 15 years now.
So what is the housing authority?
The housing authority is, it actually is a combination of some Section 8 housing, but also it's housing for underserved people and people who have low incomes. And so you have to qualify for housing authority by having like less than $13,000. It's less than $13,000 a year. And then it only costs you 30% of your income. And income is anything that you get. So if you have a lawsuit that you got a settlement on and they find out about it, then that's going to increase your rent. Or if you're just getting SSI or SSRI, then that counts in. And as soon as you turn 65, or actually 64 and a half, and you qualify for Medicare, that counts as income. So that increases your rent as well. So all those kind of things count as income for you. And they take they take 30% of that. So some people pay, and these are like 1 bedroom or 1 bedroom with an extended like living room. They're individual places, and you can, it's got your all your electric and your gas and your heating and cooling and water and everything is all included. Some people pay as little as $25 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And then other people pay as much as $450 a month.
Wow. Yeah, it just depends on their income.
How long they worked. Yeah. And so that's, the housing authority has 9 buildings, and I'm in the largest one of those. My building is 14 stories. It's on Forest Park Parkway, right across from the Rehab Institute of St. Louis and St. Louis College of Pharmacy. It's right down there.
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, it's a big obtuse V.
Yeah.
And everybody in there has to be elderly or disabled. And we're losing our elderly because there's a lot of younger disabled, and disability for the most part is not a physical disability. It is a psych mental health disability like schizophrenic or bipolar. So most of the people in the building fall into that category. Although we still have some elderly, they don't come out of their apartments as much as they used to as the younger people are moving in. But that's where we are. We're the prime location. There's another building like the next block down that's Park Place, but it's a very small building. And we're both in very prime property and prime real estate because we're in the Central West End. So it's close to everything they need, they can walk to. The pharmacy, the library where they go to rent movies, not books. The Schnucks is down on Lindell. They can walk down there. So everything they need is pretty close. Plus, the Housing Authority provides services like there's a bus that takes them to Aldi's once a week, or a bus that takes them to Walmart. They go on some field trips, like they go pumpkin picking and they go apple picking and things like that. They went to Our Lady of Snows. They go to the Olympics. The Senior Olympics is a big competition, and our building usually wins in horseshoe pitching and shooting pool. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then you can see the people with like the shoulder problems after horseshoe pitching.
Oh, I bet.
So you have your own office in there?
Yeah,
They gave me an
How does it work?
apartment. Yeah.
You have your
They
own
gave me an
apartment?
They gave me an apartment on the 6th floor. And so they come in and they sit in my kitchen, and that's where my computer is. And they wait to see me there. And then in the bedroom, I have an exam table. I have a microscope. I have all the stuff to do blood work and pelvics and PAPs and things like that.
Wow,
the only thing I
that's
cannot
tremendous.
do is x-ray. Yeah, that's the only thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
I have an old-fashioned EKG machine, like the one that looks like Frankenstein things. Remember
Oh my
those?
gosh.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
works.
I can't
If
remember.
it
I
works.
remember them, but that's
works,
a long
yeah.
time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it works.
Yep.
Great.
So I have all that kind of stuff in there, and I can, if they don't show up, like I'll give them cards for guayac cards and things like that, or colo kits and things. And then if they don't show up and bring them back, I just knock on their door, and get it that way. Say, hey, did you forget about me today?
That is awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. And the good thing about it is that most of them do show up. I don't give appointments. In the beginning, I gave appointments, and if they missed their appointments, they thought they couldn't come. So I quit giving an appointment. It's just an open door. They know when I'm there. It's announced when I come in the building. It's announced when I'm leaving. So they know they can just come down. But if there's somebody I really need to see and they don't show up, then I'll go to their apartment. And I like that because if like their blood sugars don't look like, they tell me, oh, I'm doing everything you told me to do, and their blood sugars don't look like they're doing that, or it doesn't look like they're taking their medicines, then I can go to their apartment and say,
Take a look
can
and
I
see what
open
kind
your
of meds?"
refrigerator and see what you're eating? And can I take a look at your medicine and make sure that it's all set up right? And
Oh, wow.
things like that. So I can go and see exactly what they're doing and, where they're going. There's an exercise room in the building that has some donated equipment. There's a computer room. So we've uploaded some things like My Plate and Cancer Society and the Heart Association and, different diets and things like that. There's a group meeting room that until COVID came, we were meeting very regularly for a social isolation group that we were doing to get them. The older people are kind of afraid to come out of their apartments.
Sure.
So we were getting them to come down and meet as a group, and you'd be surprised how they open up and share things with each other because they know it stays in that room.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun. There's a lot of good things about it. It's a nice place. We can walk down to Forest Park and do weight loss programs. I bring a mammogram van in annually. We do all the screenings. The firemen come in and can do like cholesterol screenings and stuff. The firemen are there a lot, not for the right reasons, but they're there. They're there a lot. Yeah.
I think that's tremendous. But and how did that position start, Margaret? Was that a brain, how did that all start, and how long ago did it start, and how did it start? And how does it keep going?
It was Dr. Campbell. Dr. Campbell came to the school and he needed a nurse practitioner. I was an adult general nurse practitioner, and I had just finished, we had just turned over the clinic at St. Patrick's Center to Affinia. And so I was available. And so I met and worked with Dr. Campbell for a month at his office right here in South County.
Yes.
And then we went down to the Housing Authority, and there's a social worker named Marvin Bostic. And Marvin is the one who got the apartment allotted, and he wanted health care for people there and actually at another building that's more downtown on Biddle Street. And so initially I was supposed to go back and forth between the two, but it really worked out that I was busy at the one I was at. Excuse me.
Sure.
So just this always happens when I'm talking too much.
I
know.
It's all informal. It's all informal. We're having you talk a lot. When did that start, Margaret? How long have you been doing it?
15 years.
Oh,
Yeah, 15 years ago.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, and the building had originally been covered by Cardinal Ritter, went in and was doing home health and things. And then there was a big fire and the whole left side of the building burned. And so as they were rehabbing, then they thought they wanted to put healthcare in for the residents. And so when I first went there, it was still very much under construction, and still half the building was burned. And we went in, and so all the residents were kind of, half of them came back from the other side and switched over, and then half of them were new. So it was a good time. It was a good opportunity to go in and do that.
I would think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay, Karen. I would think the relationships that you have built and with your patients has been tremendous. Margaret, I would think that something that's very important and essential in this position is your relationships with your patients, and that trust and those relationships that you have built in. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it took a little while in the beginning. They were very skeptical. I always dress up like I would in a regular clinic. I want them to know that I'm a professional and that I'm there professionally as their nurse. And I want them to know that I'm treating them like everybody else. I've always been very honest with them. And the social worker, at one point we were thinking maybe we shouldn't continue to do this, but the social worker said, I like the way you treat the people because I treat them the same as I treat everybody else. And they know that. And so I'm very honest with them. They're very honest with me. They don't hesitate to tell me if they've been using something. They don't hesitate to tell me if they cheated on their diet. We're very open. And I found over time that I can't teach them, and I can't coach them because they don't know enough. So it's a blended thing. So I'll tell them, this smoking does this, and this. How do you think that affects you? And how do you think you can change that so that I get better buy-in? And they all call me Miss Margaret. They tell people I'm their doctor, and I'll say, no, I'm a nurse. And they'll be like, yeah, but
you're my doctor. Yeah.
But they know that they can come and tell me anything. They know that, other people will come in. Some people I see very, very regularly. Other people will just stop in when they've had a cooking accident and burned themselves, or have frequent urination and they're waking up at night. But they know that anybody in the building can come and see me anytime. So there are some relationships that we've built over time. Some of these people were people who had big professions and ended up kind of down on their luck and ended up in the housing authority building. Wow. And they're a real asset. And so at one point I started a reading program because a lot of them couldn't read. So we found those that liked to read and put them with other people who didn't. And there's like a stash of books and puzzles and things in my office that we can give them. But yeah, they're all, they're all different types of people. Some are tattooed all over their face, and some are, they look kind of shady, but they're really some of the nicest, kindest people that I trust more than some of the other people that I see on a regular basis. And they know that they can tell me, and they know that like when all the COVID stuff happened, they kind of locked down the building and they didn't let many people in. And so I was allowed to come in, and people bringing food were allowed to come in, but not many other people. And so when I came in, they were like, how did you get in here? They took all our chairs and everything away, and we called the police. And I was like, no, they're keeping you safe. And so they would come and say, ask them about this. So they know that I will stick up for them. And but they called me during that time. I gave everybody my phone number. So they would call me, and I said, call me if you have something you need, because I'm not coming down here but once a week. And for the most part, we can do things over the phone. So they would call. One lady called at 5 a.m. and said, I'm having a crisis. And I said, what's going on? And she said, I am out of chocolate. So they'll call for all kinds of things. But then we have to talk about, like, some of the conversations that we had early on are that they were really abusing the emergency medical system and going to the emergency room. And so, we would go through what's an emergency and what's not, and what you can wait for and what you can call me for, and I'll tell you if you can wait. But so we have a really good working relationship. Recently with all the DEI and Black Lives Matter, I've really thought, am I treating them the way I need to treat them? And I asked them, and they said, yes, you're treating us okay. And I said, I just wanted to make sure, because I thought, maybe you just didn't tell me. And they said, well, do you see us different? And I said, no, I don't see you any different than me or anybody else. And they said, that's what we thought.
Oh, wow. What a tremendous,
very open.
Sounds like you've really built
that's tremendous, Margaret, that
community.
Community and the relationship that you have and the trust that you've built. I mean, that's incredible. That is, that is really changing people's lives.
I mean, it almost brings me back to the Marcus Welby days, and I know that I'm really dating myself by saying the Marcus Welby days, but you would see the town doctor who became involved in your life. They knew all your family, they knew your habits, they visited you in your home. I mean, and you've provided a central hub, a community. You brought this housing unit together with literacy, with socialization, with being a healer,
right?
In more than just a medical sense.
Right.
Well, at this point, they're almost like they're my patients, and
but they're like
we have that. But I know them. I know their families. Their families know how to call me and reach me if there's a problem. They know. They come in and ask, do you have pictures of your grandkids? Can I see the pictures of your grandkids? So we do have, I know when they're going through a crisis. I know the anniversary date of when their son was shot. And I know that we can anticipate a depression period during that time. And I'll say, do you remember that this is that anniversary date? And so what are we going to do to cope? How can we refocus your energy and keep you back on track and things? But I know them well enough that also I know when their schizophrenia is acting out, or they'll come in and say, I think I need my Haldol shot early because I'm getting a little schizophrenic-y if I ask you a lot of questions. And I'm like, okay, let's do your Haldol shot right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do your students think when they come in? You bring your students down there and they are getting a first class, one of the best experiences of their life.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the students, I am there one day a week by myself. And so I know who is comfortable with other people finding out things, but they also can see ways like to irrigate an ear. I have a cut off butterfly on a syringe with an emesis basin.
I remember doing that. Yeah.
And that's what and so they'll be like, what? But they'll see how to test, I test hearing by using a tuning fork and doing Renee and Weber. And so they'll be like, oh, this is what we learned that far. And I'm like, in public health, you have to be creative.
You have to do these things. Hearing tests. I would always.
That's right.
So they come in they're a little scared. And I keep them in pairs. I don't ever send them to any apartments by themselves. Not that I don't think they're safe, but I want them to feel safe too. And the patients all know ahead of time if somebody's going to come and visit them. But so sometimes if I'll see somebody and they're a new diabetic and I'm just getting them calibrated, I'll send them to go do teaching in their apartment with them. So usually I give each student one person in the beginning and a couple of weeks later, a second person so that they get to know. And by the end, the students all write the patients a letter and tell them how much they enjoyed getting to know them and what they learned from them and how they were helpful in their education. And then the patients really feel special that they help those students learn and they help those students in the process.
That is amazing. That is awesome.
So it's pretty cool. But the students come in afraid and they see one of the patients that really, I'm not kidding, he's got tattoos all over his face. And I asked him one time, he's kind of a younger guy, he's in his 30s. And I asked him one time, why do you have those tattoos all over your face? And he said, and we do just ask each other whatever we want. So I said, why do you have those tattoos all over your face? And he said, you know how expensive these are? I want people to know that I'm rich. I want them to think I'm rich. But he had all kinds of things. And he tells you the story behind them all. And really, I've learned to appreciate body art. But but he's funny. And so people see him and they're afraid of him. And he's honest and truly one of the kindest, nicest people you would ever want to know. He's schizophrenic, and he will tell you, I have this problem, and right now I'm a little bit on edge, so it's not a good day to talk. So they're really good about that. But the students, they come in afraid and they leave not wanting to leave. And they do some really good programs because they do we always have them do an education program, and they identify which one they want to do. One time it was an I'm okay program where we taught them all to put a thing on their door, and then we trained one person on every hallway to go down and slide it under the door, because we were having people found dead in their apartments. And so it was a way to make sure that we didn't miss anybody for more than one day. So they identify those. They do teaching. They learn how to teach on the person's level and not to judge. So they learn a lot of good things there. And really, truly, they all really talk about that experience for a long time. Now, this last semester, I couldn't bring students in, so we ended up going to Freedom Place, which is a veterans homeless from St. Patrick's Center that's also in the Central West End. And so that was a good opportunity too. But St. Patrick's Center always takes people in to help.
Yes,
so
that's a wonderful place.
I mean, we talk about teaching cultural diversity. We talk about being building relationships, but I mean, to see it in action and to see the difference you've made over the years, what one person can do.
Yeah, it's fun. We do have a lot of. I mean, St. Louis itself has 23 medically underserved communities by zip code. We have 23 in North St. Louis. And so where we have 2 giant medical centers down there, we've got WashU and we've got St. Louis U, and we're almost across the street from WashU. And yet this is a population that is either Medicaid or uninsured, because as adults without children, if they aren't disabled, they don't qualify for healthcare. Yeah. And so they're a population that wouldn't get healthcare otherwise. And so they were ending up in the emergency room. This is why the Housing Authority initiated. They were ending up in that emergency room with outrageous bills that they couldn't pay and nobody could pay. And so this was put in to provide care to people.
See you at no cost to them, right?
Yep.
And then that's picked up by the Housing Authority. And then what about scripts or things that you write?
I write all my scripts. The pharmacies around me know me now. So I'll call them, and sometimes I'll say, this is what I need. What is the cheapest thing that you have?
You got,
right? Yeah. So the pharmacist, there's 2 pharmacies. There's a West Pine Pharmacy, and then there's Gateway Apothecary right next door. And so I can call those pharmacists and say, this is what's going on, and
try to figure out the best thing. Yeah. And I used to do that in Ellsbury. I mean, I worked in Ellsbury for 7 years, and that was across the lifespan, one pharmacy right next door to our office. We became best friends because he knew the patients longer than I did. And, if they were going to get close to that donut hole, or we were trying to do new meds, it was just an invaluable partnership between me and the pharmacist, because they knew discounts that I didn't know, or could come up with an alternative that would maybe work just as well. So, and I mean, I can remember one of my patients actually came to our office on a tractor. That was his form of transportation, and it was really cold winter day that day. And I think he had a bite from the dog or something, and we got him all fixed up. But I had my student and me, we followed him home on his tractor because we were afraid that he might, end up in the snow somewhere, and he wasn't going to leave his tractor. So, but it's a whole different kind of nursing and being a provider of people who are underserved or in rural counties that I don't think you can appreciate until you've done it.
Those are the best. Those are the best practice. That was my best practice as well, that I would love to go back to. I had an underserved practice in South County, independent of the health system there. And then I was in Pacific in an old house providing care. And it was the best, because such a need, and people were so appreciative, and those relationships and trusts were built, and It was amazing. It was just, so I really commend you, Margaret, for what you're doing. It's
Thanks.
needed, and we appreciate your, your time and your expertise for our patients in the St. Louis area, because without you, think about they wouldn't have any care without, without you, they would just be lost.
They would be going to the emergency room. It would be such a good study to see how many dollars were saved between the year before you came.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
that would be
after.
interesting.
Just to say how much was saved
what's
in
your impact?
emergency room visits, by having you there.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. The population changes over a lot, but that's how all homeless are. But yeah, that would be interesting to know, because it did decrease a lot. When I first came, they were on the no call list for the fire department, because they would call like randomly in the middle of the night when they wanted coffee and blankets, because that's what the fire department brings.
Wow.
But yeah.
Yeah, you've made not only, you've made a big impact on improving their quality of life, the quality of life, and extending their life. I mean, you have impacted in so many ways.
Oh, well, you extending life. One of my patients is 107.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's really funny. I have to see him he never comes to my office. I have to see him in his apartment, because when he turned 100, he decided he could do anything he wanted. So he decided not to wear clothes anymore. So I have to see him in his apartment. And he always says, "Have a seat." And I'm like, "No, I've been sitting all day."
Yes.
He's really cute, and he's really fascinating to listen to, because he talks about, one time I asked him what the biggest discovery in his lifetime was, and he said refrigeration.
Wow.
So he's really cute. Yeah.
And we take that so for granted, but yeah, I remember having the stories too. And I remember I had this one patient who was like turning 103, and she would still drive into the to the office, and she was just hunkered down, and we kept looking as she would leave, and we'd be like, that's the only place she could go is from her house to that little strip mall area where there was a few stores and our office. And it was kind of interesting, but she was, like I said, the relationships, the stories, if we could just write them all down, our students would benefit from that so much.
Yeah.
And the students listening, I mean, it's, you have to learn so much to be a nurse practitioner and be a provider, but you will be amazed at how wonderful the relationships and the trust that you build with patients. It just carries me through with difficult days, and learning more and more of how to be an excellent advanced practice nurse. So students are listening, you're in for a treat. That is a big part that you may not know is going to happen in a different way from being a nurse. Advanced practice nursing and being a provider is a whole nother level of a relationship and trust.
Yeah, they really count on you. And honestly, there's some days when I'm walking down that long hall to go out, and I think how lucky I am. And even if I just helped one person, how lucky am I to be in this situation?
Absolutely. That you are a true nurse. It's a calling. It's a calling to be a nurse and a nurse practitioner. It definitely is a calling. You have to have your whole heart and being, and appreciate the gift that you've been given to help people. Absolutely. I truly believe that as well.
It's worth every step of the journey.
Sure.
Any parting words of advice to an NP student you would give, Margaret, before we end our session?
I think maybe, just go for it. When you have an opportunity, even if you think, I'm not sure if I can do that, I think you should go for it. I mean, I think there's always something to learn from every opportunity that presents itself. And sometimes, I didn't ever think I'd end up in the housing authority, but it's been truly very rewarding. So take advantage of all those opportunities that present, because things that can help people that you didn't realize you really could contribute to the community, and community needs it.
Wonderful advice, Margaret. Thank you so much, Margaret.
Thank you so much for being with us again. And we look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah.
All righty.
Thank you all for listening. This is NP's Changing Practice. Please visit our website. Look for games, look for educational tips for students, and we will see you next week. Bye everybody.
Bye.